And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Week 1 of college football is in the books with a lot of interesting hot topics to talk about, and we'll get to those in a minute. But this week we got the opening of the NFL season, and we got week 2 of college football that has many rivalry games going on.
It is hate week here in the state of Iowa.
It is Mark.
It's hate week.
It's Mark
Hate week.
Gronowski's heyday week coming up.
Hey,
He looks to improve on 44 yards passing from last week.
if it makes you feel any better, we had what we call the eye bash here in Iowa today, and the Iowa State team beat the Iowa team. So if that's an indication, I mean, you just will write it off. I mean,
Well, it was one of the first games that I've ever been able to watch, though, in the Iowa game against the mighty Great Danes of Albany. I literally was able to keep track of the passing yards as the game went on. I mean, it was like the third quarter, and they threw like a 2-yard gain in the flat, and I said, well, that puts them up to 24 yards passing.
well,
They broke double digits. Let's go.
if it makes you feel any better, Ed, Rocco Beck played one series in the third quarter of the USD game, and I think he threw for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that makes you feel better. I mean,
Well,
I hope it doesn't,
but KJ knows, and you know as well as I know, Iowa was not going to show anything.
dude,
They were going to do just what it took to take down the mighty Great Danes of Albany.
listen.
So that
From your ecstatic review, Eddie,
the offensive fury could be unleashed
This
in Ames, Iowa on Saturday.
This is exactly how this goes, KJ, and you're not familiar with this rivalry, but
I'm not.
it is what it is. Everything, and I mean everything.
We fight over a big pail down here in Houston this week. So
Point
it's nothing to
spread,
shake.
location of the game, the way the teams look, everything points to Iowa State, smacking Iowa around like they were renting mules. And you know what? I've been involved in this rivalry for a long, long, long time. And I can tell you one thing. It ain't going to go that way. I don't know how it ends up, but it ain't going to go that way.
I even drove back to Iowa so that I could personally tailgate with Eric at one of his party friend tailgate deals. And Iowa looked good the first half.
Oh,
I started sending out posts on Facebook.
Bottom line, Iowa dominates, blah, 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 blah. And then what happened, Ed? What happened, buddy?
Then the refs started screwing us.
Yeah. Well, Conradi from 54 yards. It's good. Iowa, go home. I mean,
of course, it was just me and one other guy that they invited to the tailgate.
One other guy. There was like 4 Cyclone fans and like 14 Iowa fans. So there were 4 people that were extremely happy.
I think it was the other way around, dude. But.
Because the Iowa fans before the game got over, they were just, oh yeah, we got this. We got this, KJ. Oh yeah, Iowa Hawkeyes, go Hawks! Whoa, whoa, whoa! And then guess what? At the end of the game, boom.
Look for Rocco. Look for Rocco and the running Rebels of Iowa State to finally have that letdown coming back from Ireland.
God.
This is going to be the week that they shit the bed.
Now, I don't want to steal any of KJ's thunder, but I will tell you this. The 2 teams that came from Ireland, Kansas State and Iowa State looked like they got better. Kansas State struggled against North Dakota.
Yes.
I mean, they had to score in the last seconds of that game to pull that one out. So, I mean, yeah, there is something to that. Maybe more so when you lose that game as opposed to when you win that game. But I don't know, Ed. Like I said, on paper it says Iowa State should win, but I guess we'll see.
So before we get started, I am totally embarrassed. Hopefully this will never happen again this year, but it could possibly. Here are the pick'em results from week 1, and oh my God,
save it.
Nobody has.
Whoa!
Nobody has a reason to be on top of the mountain talking about how great they are. But Eric,
yeah, but who's winning, Ed?
Eric and KJ are the clear winners of week 1.
I heard that a lot this week when I was at the Iowa State game. Just saying.
Yeah, you're gonna have to remind your dad though, when you're gonna take him to an Iowa State game, that he at least has to have something besides a blue flannel shirt on.
Well, he was his planning was just not very good.
All right, so now we don't have to leave that up there very long. Let's get right into the power rankings so we can get into the hot topics, because we got hot topics, we got picks,
we got stuff going on tonight.
College stuff going on this week, so we got to get started. So let's put up the KJ's Big 12 power rankings heading in week 2, and I'll let KJ take it away.
Man, I was not intending to make a lot of big jumps after 1 week, but I still felt obligated to move some pieces around, especially due to certain teams really showing up and others not so much. I didn't feel like we got an adequate taste from the middle of the field. If you'll look back on our page from week 1's rankings. So I didn't really move a lot of teams around too much in the middle of the pack there. But you can definitely see the distinct switch in position between TCU and Utah moving up from the bottom half of the field. I think both of them had very dominant statement-type wins against formidable out-of-conference opponents. And then obviously we all saw the struggle bus that was Baylor, Colorado, and Cincy against Auburn, Georgia Tech, and Nebraska, respectfully. Didn't feel like I needed to reward a team in terms of moving them up after a loss. So I didn't do that with regards to like Colorado, for instance, even though I think with regards to opponent difficulty, in my personal opinion, I do think, in time we'll see. But my belief or alleged belief is that Georgia Tech really is still a good team. And despite Colorado's struggles early on in the beginning of the game, they were able to at least make a close comeback and try to make a game of it there at the end. Controversy aside with the timeouts and what have you, everybody's got their opinion there. Man, Sorsby with Cincinnati surprised me. I had him ranked super high. I know when I was doing positional grades on a lot of the QBs, just looking back at his stats from last season, and man, he looked so disheveled and disorganized in the Nebraska game. Eric and I were talking about this before we went live, but he underthrew so many passes against Nebraska and Kansas City. That was the biggest thing that stuck out to me from watching that game live. And then for Kansas State, the only reason they moved down, even though they did get a win this week, was because I'd argue the quality of the win was not good. I didn't actually watch that game directly live, but I looked back. North Dakota, I guess it is, their production last year was not very good. They weren't one of the, formidable group of 5 schools or FCS schools, whatever you want to call it. But I'll say, I think, when you combine that with what we saw in Ireland against Iowa State, I just felt like I couldn't reward them even with getting a win, respective to what the other teams had done. And it wasn't so much that I moved them down as much as it was I had to give up the 3 and 4 spots to teams that truly showed they deserved it, consideration for that. BYU, Houston Tech haven't changed positions. Kansas, despite not necessarily playing an in-conference opponent, has trounced both the lower tier schools they played. So I felt like they were, should be given the nod when putting side by side with their in-state rival there. And then the bottom of the pack really hasn't moved at all either, with West Virginia through Oklahoma State. You keep saying that, Brett. Thinking my kids are too high, but Connor's going to surprise you, and you're going to bow down to the superiority of in Willie Fritz we trust eventually here. We'll convince you of it by season's end. So they're in a good spot right here. That 6 isn't too high. We're going to beat the little cupcakes from Red Raider BFE University later next month, I believe it is, or the end of this month. Y'all just wait and see. So Brett's just mad because his little elephants got trounced upon by a bunch of crazy Indians.
We will get to that, KJ. We will get to that.
For Eric.
So who do we want to go to next? Do we want to?
Let's go. How about I do Chad's power rankings? I'll get them out of the way quick.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Would you quit clicking on that? I got it.
He's still like that.
Who's running the damn board, man?
Well, no, I'm just making sure. I was just getting to it quick.
Did that one glitch too? I apologize.
Ohio State with a huge win over Texas. Obviously, is going to remain in the top spot. Penn State, Oregon, Michigan. I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not a Big Ten aficionado, but Illinois is a team to watch out for sure. They were a 10-win team last year. They've got a predominantly solid roster coming back. They're going to either play spoiler with some of those top guys, or they're going to play legit contender in the Big Ten for sure.
I was interested to see, as you say that about Illinois, and have them ranked 12th or 11th in the current poll that came out today. They're going up against the mighty Dukes, and we'll be doing that as one of our games we're going to do a pick 'em on. And they only have Illinois as 2.5-point favorites over Duke. I thought that was,
which I can't believe that. But here's the deal. I think a lot of that comes from, over the past, long 15 years, we've been so used to being Illinois kind of as an also-ran type of team. But I'm telling you right now, they are no joke. I mean, you cannot sleep on Illinois at all. If you do, you're going to get beat. So I honestly right now, I could see Illinois and Michigan being flip-flopped. I could see Illinois being in that top 4. But if you move in there, Indiana 6, Iowa, Nebraska, USC, Washington, a lot of these teams, beyond, the ones that we know are good, really haven't played anybody. The Great Danes of Albany is not really a win. I would say Nebraska's win over Cincinnati would definitely put them in a higher spot, but a more quality win, I would say. It's going to take a little bit to maybe sort some of these teams out to find out who beyond number 5 or 6 is going to be a contending team in the Big Ten. But outside of that, I would say this looks pretty good. Chad did a pretty good job on that, but yeah, I still think the Big Ten, maybe not as deep as the SEC. I guess you can make that argument, but I would say that the top 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten are really good, and I don't think I would want to play them for damn sure. But yeah, so that just covers the real Big Ten. The Big Ten real quick, as Chad has a family emergency issue that he's dealing with, so I covered that for him. KJ, you want to go to the ACC or you want me to do the SEC?
It's up to y'all, whichever one. I'll cover the ACC in whatever order you pitch it up there. So
I'll do the SEC first, then you can go from there.
Perfect.
Okay. A little switch up in the SEC. Big time switch up. I only moved Texas down to number 2 because I do think Texas is a very good team. And losing to Ohio State 14-7 at Ohio State, first game of the year, I still think Texas is going to be in that talk. One of the biggest jumpers is LSU. As I mentioned prior to this week's games, LSU certainly has a top 10 roster in the nation.
Agreed.
They have not always performed that way, but they definitely, and some would argue they have a top 5 roster in the nation. But and I'm sure, with KJ looking at the ACC, a lot of us had Clemson, being the team to beat in the ACC, and LSU's defense had Dabo and Klubnik, like they just couldn't accomplish anything. And defense in the SEC is going to win you a lot of games. So I put LSU in that 3rd spot. Ole Miss, obviously. Ole Miss had a solid win over Georgia State. No need to move them. South Carolina might be my shakiest position as far as higher position at 5. They played Virginia Tech, and I think it was a 24-11 game. That's not a real statement victory to say we're a top 5 team in the SEC, but they did win, so I did leave them there. Florida took care of business.
They did.
And then we come to number 7. And I really, really struggled. My heart told me that I should put Alabama down around 10. But here's the deal. And I know Brett says Bam is way too high. But here's the deal. If I kind of went like this, if Alabama and Auburn were playing this week, I'm taking Alabama. If Alabama was playing Mississippi State, I'm taking Alabama. If Alabama was playing Texas A&M, I'm taking Alabama.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're going to win, but as I look at it, I'm taking Alabama. So, I bumped them from 3 to 7. Could you have? I just could not see putting them, at least currently, behind Auburn, behind Mississippi State, behind Texas A&M. Arkansas, for example, Arkansas had, I believe, they had a pretty impressive win. Arkansas might not be long for the 14th spot. Some of these, you take away Texas, LSU, and I guess you could say Alabama, and not a lot of the SEC teams played any power. So that's kind of why I didn't shake up much other than bumping Alabama down and moving LSU up because of their win over Clemson. But watch out for the Razorbacks. They looked really good. And to be quite honest with you, Oklahoma looked pretty good as well. Venables, he needs to win games there. 6 or 7 wins at Oklahoma this year is not going to get it done. So yeah, that's where the SEC power rankings rank as of this week. I don't believe, if I look at our games here, Oklahoma plays Michigan, and we'll get to that game, but that could be a mover and a shaker for Oklahoma if they can pull that out. But as I look at the rest of our games, Mississippi State does play Arizona State. That could be a mover and shaker for Mississippi State in the rankings. But as of right now, that's how the SEC shakes out. So, want to move quickly?
Oh, Brett, someone, if you live in the Tuscaloosa area, you need to go check on Brett Tears. He's spazzing out like chicken liver.
This is what Brett said. Thanks for not dumping Bama, but we deserve it, to be honest. Brett, here's the deal.
It's either
I know that everybody in the state of Alabama is, wanting to burn DeBoer's house down, and they want him out, and they want him this, they want him that. But I got to thinking about Alabama, and I thought to myself, you're stuck with DeBoer this year, and you may be stuck with DeBoer throughout his contract simply because, we've talked about NIL. We've talked about the money. We've talked about everything that's happening with these schools. There's no way that, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment line, that Alabama can afford to pay DeBoer $70 million and then hire a new coaching staff for $80 or $90 million. Yeah, I can't see it. So I get it. You're an Alabama fan. I'm not, but I'm looking at it with my eyes. You're looking at it through your heart. I truly believe that Alabama is a better team than they showed this week. And I don't think it's going to be as terrible as you think it is. I'm trying to put some sun on a cloudy day.
Well, according to Brett, the Alabama fan base has a way to put pressure on the coach so that $70 million will voluntarily be reduced to right around $15 million. So
yeah, as Brett said, it's almost nuclear here. Yes, you're right, but there's no doubt. I mean, you could make this argument with Texas. I mean, I believe I have these numbers correct. You have Arch Manning, 17 of 30 for 140 or 60 yards in a huge game. Well, most people are saying Texas is going to come out of it. They'll get their wheels and whatever. Well, you're also replacing pieces on the offensive side in the Alabama situation. We know their defense is good. And we know what happened with Florida State. Their defense spends so much time on the field. Gotcha. As Alabama's offense starts getting their feet underneath of them a little bit, I see Alabama turning it around. Now, I'm not saying turn it around to the tune of, 11-1, but I'm saying I can see them turning it around. I mean, you can't have those kind of athletes running around on the field and not turn it around.
Well, you're making a big assumption, though. You're making the assumption that Alabama's problem is 100% on the field in performance. Word has it that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and the night before the game and practice time and all that stuff that is contributing to their performance on game day. So
you're right. But the problem is too many people in Alabama, I think, thought we have Nick Saban, everything's good, we're automatically going to be there. He knows what he's doing. You bring in, DeBoer, and he's coming from the Pac-12. He's coming from a completely different mindset. He's not Nick Saban. Nobody is. And it's going to take him, as Brett says, zero discipline. It's going to take him, time, last year, maybe even another year, to figure out what works and what doesn't. And it's obvious they are lacking discipline. You can see that on the field. But I do think DeBoer is a better coach than maybe how Alabama fans are grading him out right now, because you were spoiled. Alabama fans, you were spoiled. And now, just like Nebraska had to learn, you have to be like maybe the rest of us for a while.
Yep.
You have to take bumps and bruises like the rest of us have for a long time. You can't go through Solich, Pelini, Frost, and pay 5 or 6 coaches all at once. Because when you start that, understand, DeBoer may not be Nick Saban, but guess what? The next guy isn't either. And the next guy after that isn't either.
Yep.
Be careful what you wish for, because you might get it.
And before he burns up all of our hot topics, we're going to get to the ACC list and let KJ go through that, and then we'll get to the hot topics.
This one, admittedly, is essentially just based on the the limited viewership I had of some of our keynote games we watched this weekend, as well as kind of how the overall standings within the conference ended. Obviously, I don't think anybody's going to negate or debate where I have Miami and Florida State at. Wins over Notre Dame and Bama speak volumes, so I think they, rightfully so, deserve to be there. I didn't feel like, as much as a loss is a loss, I didn't think Clemson deserved to get docked significantly in the standings, because they were honestly in that game and in the lead for, I think, at least almost full 3 quarters. It's only by the grace of God above LSU's ability to eventually adjust on offense and their defense's unwavering inability. It seemed like they would never run out of energy. I'll just put it that way. I watched that game live, and it was incredible to see how many 3-0 stops that the Tigers were able to muster up against Clemson over and over and over again to continue to give their offense a chance to make a comeback. And it ended up working. So they were kind of a testament, in my opinion, to defense winning championships. Georgia Tech, I think, just did really good last year. I may have them higher than other people would agree. But like I said, some of this is just kind of tracking how they have them shown within standings online. Virginia Tech lost by a pretty significant margin against South Carolina, so I didn't feel like they really made much of a statement. Syracuse played Tennessee and lost. North Carolina got absolutely destroyed by TCU. The rest kind of just fall where they lie, if you will, in my opinion. And we'll just have to continue to see how the ACC shakes out as we go week by week through the season. There's not really a lot to say on that one.
So let's jump right into it. So let's go to hot topic number 1. Did Auburn turn some heads in the SEC?
I think they should have turned a few at least. I didn't know who Jackson Arnold was before Saturday. Was that Saturday when they played? I'll tell you what, his name's ingrained in my brain now as a notable quarterback to enjoyably watch as a secondary distant fan who doesn't, religiously support an SEC squad. That kid ran all over Baylor, and that's just a fact. He was the moments when maybe their protection had broken down or what have you. He extended plays left and right. They definitely, had their way to some extent. despite Baylor trying to still make it a ball game. I think towards the end, I mean, Auburn was, playing up from the lead standpoint, I think almost all game, in my opinion. So while Baylor may not be considered in SEC fans' view a formidable opponent, the fact that we're in the group of 4, I think, carries some weight. And I would still, going into that game, I was ranking Baylor fairly high within our power rankings for Big 12. So, and I don't think only by what we saw in just week 1 alone that I would say they're completely out of contention by any means. That's all predicated on their coach being able to make adjustments as the season goes on for them to continue to stay in contention in the Big 12. But I think personally, Auburn is definitely I wouldn't put them at the bottom. I'll say that for SEC standings for sure. So you didn't either.
I guess my opinion of both of these teams is I don't see either one of these teams. I know you had Baylor ranked higher to start the year off in your power rankings. I don't see either one of these teams as making waves in their respective conferences. I don't see Auburn, making too many waves in the SEC, and I don't see Baylor making too many waves in the Big 12. So to me, I think this was a couple of middle of the road teams, playing each other from different conferences, and Auburn played better. I could look at it the same way as Nebraska and Cincinnati, a couple of middle of the road teams. Where one played a little bit better. I think in the grand scheme of things, this game are, the two teams, I guess, Baylor and Auburn, I just don't see a path where Auburn wins more than 7 games. I think I could say the same thing about Baylor, but certainly for Auburn in the SEC, I don't see a path where they win 7 games. So regardless of the quality win factor compared to maybe some of the other schools in the SEC, I just don't see it. Ed, what do you think? I just don't see it.
Well, as you talk about Auburn not making many waves in the SEC this year, they can make those waves a tidal wave if they're able to beat Alabama on the schedule, because Auburn and Alabama, Alabama's just not going to go for losing to Auburn.
Right.
So let's move on to the next one. Did quarterback Caden Salter's performance against Georgia Tech give Colorado optimism for the future?
In my opinion, I think he showed that he has talent. With that being said, I think there was a level of sporadicness and disorganization in his decision-making in some instances that you saw very apparently through the game, especially obviously like in their closing drive when he's like a kid running from the cops after stealing candy from a candy shop, across the width of the field, taking precious seconds away. Granted, I know he was trying to get a first down because they were on a clutch, I think, 3rd down play. But there were a few passes he threw that were fairly errant and not accurate in nature. I think he has the talent ability to do well. I don't know if he's a, Shedeur Sanders level QB per se, but the fact that they have him, I think at least helps them maintain some level or ear of competitiveness within the Big 12. I don't know how that'll shake out in the long run, if that's enough. But the fact that they made the biggest thing I noticed on the offensive side of the ball in that game was that, and this does in some senses, I guess, fall on Caden's shoulders a lot, or at least some high percentage. They had 3 turnovers in, I think, the first half, all of which, maybe one of which didn't occur in the first quarter, but 2 of which did. And out of all that, they were only able to pull out 7 points, I think, on 3 turnovers. You change that factor right there, and by the end of the game, they're playing from the lead instead of the deficit. That was the biggest thing I took away from kind of reviewing the highlights and what have you of the game itself. Now, granted, most of those were mistakes made by Georgia Tech and self-inflicted, but the fact that they couldn't, push through into the red zone and come out with points more than 1 attempt out of those 3, I think speaks to both coaching and maybe Caden's decision-making. But I think we'll see how it goes. I wouldn't rank him. If he's in the top half of the conference, he'd be towards the bottom, in my opinion, out of the guys I did see and who really stood out and performed this weekend, in my opinion.
I think Colorado is going to be a victim of their own nature. You know, you had a couple years of Shedeur, Travis Hunter, a lot of hype, some flash plays, you know, a complete turnaround type of scenario. And now you're taking Shedeur out of there. Take away what's happening in the NFL. That's irrelevant. Now Shadeur's gone, and a playmaker like Travis Hunter is gone. Now, I think we're going to see if Sanders can really coach. Because you don't have those guys in Shedeur and Hunter on both sides of the ball that you can count on. Now, can you coach? And I think, and maybe we would disagree, but I think this is something. There were times where, you know, Coach Prime, I feel like got out coached in some games. He looked ahead of his skis a little bit. You know, just some mistakes that even I would sit there and go, and we talked about on the show, what are we doing here? You know, now you don't have that playmaking safety net, at least right now, that you can count on to maybe bail you out of some of those situations. I mean, what do you think, Ed? Do you think, I mean, we talked about this last year, that there were times, we all like Coach Prime. It's fine. But there were times last year we talked about him getting out coached and not doing some of the things that looked very obvious to us. Do you think Colorado is in some real trouble now that they do not have Shedeur, Travis Hunter? They don't have some of those. I mean, right now, tell me who the star in Colorado is, besides Coach Prime.
It was popular for the Colorado fan base to show up for the games, and you know, and it does look impressive. He's filling the stadium, but now that they're lacking the stars, if they go through a series of 2 or 3 consecutive losses, is that fan base going to continue to fill that stadium, or is he going to start seeing the effects of maybe some people are going to start staying home?
Yeah.
So I think it's important for Coach Sanders to, he's got to at least keep that team around the 500 mark. You know, granted, he had a lot of skill positions he had to refill, but if they go through a season where they finish a few games below 500, does the fan base continue to support him, number one? But number two, does that make Coach Sanders more likely to take a way out and take another job? Because you know the offers are going to always be there.
Yes.
And so I think it's pretty volatile that he has some success this year. And it'll be interesting, like you said, if he lacks coaching ability, I think this is the year that it'll show up, because if he hit the transfer portal and he's got a lot of new players on the roster, it's up to him to bring them together and play as a team. And if he's not able to do that, and they squander and have a 3-9 season, or, you know, heaven forbid, a 2-10 season, what happens to the fan base? We all know how that works.
Well, and KJ alluded to it, you know, prior to week 1, you know, when he looked at his power rankings and was thinking power, you know, strength of schedule, those types of things. Colorado does not have an easy schedule.
No, that's the biggest determiner. I would agree. Yep.
I want to say that Colorado, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say that they play 3 out of the top 4 teams predicted in the Big 12 to be near the top. I know they play Iowa State. I want to say they play Arizona State. And Kansas State?
Kansas State's at the very end of the year. They play Iowa State. I'm not sure which week that is, like midway through the season, October 11th. So they've got, that's one of the biggest things I think I took up when I looked at their schedule. And this was before, obviously, to Kansas State's discredit, they have fallen back.
Right.
Maybe being at the end of the year, especially, that's maybe more to their credit than their deficit. But they've got, starting my birthday weekend, September 27th, they've got BYU at home, TCU on the road, which if you're going to play
game,
you want to play them at home. They don't get that luxury. You come back home, and then you play Iowa State. You play Utah on the road. That's another one on the road that you prefer to have at home.
Correct.
Arizona at home, which is a good recovery game, if you will. West Virginia on the road. Then they're back at home against Arizona State. That's the only ranked opponent they play. I guess Iowa State too, but Iowa State and Arizona State are the two ranked opponents they play at home that are good setups. But honestly, I would argue that you would want to trade those for home games against TCU and Utah based on
I agree.
Versus how it's set up now. So I mean, that's if you just want to look on paper, I would say from what I saw in terms of player potential and production in the game against Georgia Tech, I think they have the talent to be good, as y'all stated. Obviously, it comes down to coaching. That was one of the biggest things I saw lacking in Salter's decision making. Was there were several pass plays he could have easily taken a check down man, but he was trying to do too much and make magic happen downfield. If coaching can fix that over the next week, 2 weeks, then I think they can at least be competitive in these games. To your point, they are going through somewhat of a juggernaut respective to Big 12 team scheduling, so it'll be interesting to see how it's really the second half of the season. Honestly, the first, they have they look out, and the fact that they don't have super hard games against, Delaware, Houston, and Wyoming. But I mean, after that, it's put up or shut up, basically. So
right.
So let's move on to the next hot topic. Being a first-year starter for Texas, was the moment too big for Arch Manning against Ohio State? Does Texas have a reason to panic? I would say, if nothing else, what game one showed is that Arch Manning's going to need another year at Texas. I think the chances of him coming out after this year are probably slim and none. Before with the show we were talking, I think the next 2 weeks the schedule softens for Texas, and there's a chance Arch Manning could have, a good, if not great, performance against those two schools. But you know as well as I do that he's not going to get credit for those wins just because of who they're playing. And it's the games against those tough top teams that are going to get him the looks from the NFL. And I think that he's just going to need more time. He just hasn't had enough time starting.
So I'm going to tell everybody, when it comes to Arch Manning, pump the brakes a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
You tell me, and preseason rankings, this, that, the other, whatever. If not Texas, give me another team that you have complete confidence in that goes into Ohio State and one beats them or two loses 14-7. I'm present KJ
going against an NFL caliber defensive coordinator.
Correct. On no film, no nothing. Yeah. Give me a team, KJ, that you think.
The only one I could say, and this is honestly based on what we saw this past weekend, shot in the dark, would be LSU. But even that, to your point, I think is a reach, because I'm not going to put Clemson and Ohio State on the same caliber. No, I don't think anybody in their right mind would. But
I mean, Ed, who comes to your mind? I mean,
well, I think those teams, Texas, they can be referred to as an SEC powerhouse, but they haven't been at it very long. And so I just think there's teams that are equipped to go into an environment like Ohio State and be able to perform, i.e., look at Michigan. Michigan knows what it takes to go into Ohio State and win the big game.
I agree with you, but here's the problem. We're talking about history. We're talking about Michigan and Ohio State going back years. You could say the same thing about Iowa State, any other rivalry in the country. How in the heck on paper did Iowa State beat Iowa this year? Or how in the heck on paper did Iowa beat Iowa State this year?
To your point, Auburn could tank this season, and still when they play Alabama, it's going to be the biggest.
Correct.
Of the season.
Yes. I mean, I take Michigan. It's funny, KJ. LSU was the one team that popped up in my mind that looked like defensively that they could keep Ohio State down. But outside of that, there's nothing that I saw this weekend that said I would expect better from this team going into Ohio State. I would expect better from this team going into Ohio State. And you take away Michigan, and let's face it, I don't think Michigan's going to be as tough this year.
And what's interesting about Michigan is, and Michigan's in our pick'em for this week, right away thinking about that game, I was like, well, I'm going to take Michigan every day of the week because I was thinking about Oklahoma the way they've been the last couple of years. And I was looking at Michigan being that seasoned veteran team. But Michigan comes in with a freshman quarterback, no experience, on the road in a hostile environment. And you think to yourself, okay, Arch Manning, same situation. He come into a hostile environment, basically as a starting freshman because he really had no
very
playing
limited
time of real whatever. And it totally changed my thought process for that pick'em game. I think that you can get caught up in just looking at a name, a team.
Yes.
And you just think they're automatically going to win.
Right.
And you forget that, the transfer portal, there's a constant shift and rollover in rosters that unless you do your homework and find out just where the changes are, I mean, it's hard to pick games.
Well, and let's be honest, there was tons of new starters and things like that on the Ohio State side of the ball, defensively and offensively. But Ohio State gets the comfort of not traveling, being at home, having the crowd, and everything else that can help prop up those situations where Texas did not have that. I mean,
Ohio State's quarterback was very inexperienced too.
Right.
But the head coach looked at it and looked at the game plan and said, let's turn this into a field position game. Let's make Texas earn everything they get because he saw how Arch was struggling.
Yep.
And he decided that his defense could be the strength of that game, and he didn't make the quarterback do too much.
And guys, and KJ, let's be honest. Who has more pressure in the college football world than Arch Manning? I dare you to give me another name.
If Tom Brady had a son, he would be the only one who would probably eclipse that level of pressure. I would agree 100%.
I mean,
you're talking about a name that is literally a generational dynasty name.
Yeah, the guy hasn't even thrown a ball, and they see his last name.
It's ridiculous.
They just automatically think that he's going to measure up to Peyton and Eli.
Yeah. You have such a polarizing component. It's funny. I'm not going to necessarily reach too far to insinuate things, but you got the whole Sanders component of, being a polarizing name that many people think is going to be high. Many people, jump on the hater train, whatever. And you got a name like Manning where it's like, I honestly don't understand, to your point, Ed, you touched on it, but it's looking back last year, he had the few games, I think, where Arch came in to fill in for Ewing when he got hurt or whatever.
For Ewers, yep.
Sorry, I said it wrong. If he would have done well enough to shine bright enough, just like we've seen in other scenarios, I'm going to reference super old stuff just because that's the kid in me following UT, but the times when, Applewhite stepped in for Chris Sims because he was totally botching a game. Like, if that's not happening to that degree and you don't eclipse them as like the starter in that season, we're talking last year, why people think he's going to come in this season and it's going to be his jump year to the NFL, it's totally beyond me. It makes no sense. And I didn't believe that even before this game took place week 1. It was just like, this kid has zero experience. Texas is just now coming back to the status of being like your Alabama of old. Prior to their last year in the Big 12, first year in SEC, they were still on the struggle bus in terms of creating competitive consistency. Oklahoma had held the top down in the Big 12 for however many years past. So it's Texas was not in the status of a team where, every year it's a new quarterback, but we have faith and belief that they've been fully prepped and prefaced to where their 1 year of starting is going to, be there next year into the NFL. Granted, to your point, he's not even a senior though either. So it's not a junior senior. It's not even a parallel comparison thing. So.
And if you noticed, his mechanics, mechanics were bad. I mean, he was throwing off the back leg. He was throwing sidearm with both feet on the ground.
Yep.
I mean, it just
rushing throws.
Okay, so let's move on. We are going to go to LSU head coach Brian Kelly gets over the hump on the season opener and gets a big win over number 4 Clemson. Could Lee Corso be right about a possible national championship for LSU?
I go back to what I said before the season. Top 10 roster. For whatever reason, I think, they just haven't been able to put together. LSU is not a team that I would want to play. Especially if there was something on the line. I mean, a playoff game or whatever it might be. It's not that Brian Kelly doesn't know how to win. He just hasn't been able to figure it out at LSU. And you get a win over what a lot of people were saying is a top 4 team in Clemson, maybe even a top 2 team in Clemson. Out the gate, you get over the hump of the whole losing the season opener type of thing, whatever it is. Watch out for LSU. That's all I'm going to say. Watch out for LSU. That's my belief.
And they've proven now that they can play good football, great football on the road. And, their home games, it's hard for a team to come in and win.
Yeah. And they do have, I'd say, the scheduling component is on their side to some extent, like we talked about. Conversely, for a team like Colorado, they actually have an easier schedule than I'm sure several other teams in the SEC do going through this year. I mean, you don't have to play the likes of Georgia, all year. So while, they may not necessarily win the championship, could they get there? I'd put money on it right now. I mean, based on what we're seeing, like if I was a gambling man, it's not a cakewalk, but I mean, like I said, I think they're definitely on the easier end of if you had to pick between 2 poles for the conference in terms of scheduling difficulty.
So we're going to get on to the last topic because I think this one might take a little while, and then we got to get to our pick'em segment. So this last topic that we're going to talk about for college, TC boat races North Carolina, and I mean they boat raced them. There's no, I know they script the first drive of the game every week. Most teams do, and North Carolina goes right down the field and scores on that first drive. I've heard of teams making adjustments, but can they be that good at adjustments that you can go from going right down the field for a touchdown to not doing squat the rest of the game? Is head coach Bill Belichick in over his head? Will he right the ship at North Carolina? What do you guys think?
I think Bill Belichick has fallen into the comfort trap. And what I mean by that is, you look in the past. You look at people who, he may have hired his coaches and this and that. There's a lot of nepotism now. There's 2 other Belichicks on staff, the Lombardi and his son. Why? Because he's comfortable working with them. But that doesn't mean that they are the best for the job. And I looked at North Carolina's schedule and I said, outside of TCU, and I think I said this on the show, TCU is going to be their toughest opponent until about week, I think it's like 7 or 8. So in about a month and a half, we could be sitting here saying, oh yeah, UNC's righted the ship. They're 6-1. But man, to take your first, it looked like UNC was not even being coached. I mean, TCU outcoached them, and I think Belichick said this in his press conference. They outplayed them, and they outcoached them. Well, the outcoaching part, I think, comes from a lot of nepotism, with Belichick having his boys there and the Lombardis, whatever, comfort. The older you get, the more you seek comfort rather than, I'm comfortable with Ed. I think KJ could do a better job, but I'm more comfortable with Ed. So sorry, KJ, you're not getting the job Ed is. That's where I think Belichick's at. Look at New England. We had to keep seeing Patricia coming back, and we had to keep seeing all these guys come back because he was comfortable with them. And well, we all know it was Brady, but I mean, he was just comfort. I've worked with this guy before. Well, maybe it's new blood, maybe it's somebody else to bring, whatever it is. But that's exactly how he's operating at UNC now. I'm comfortable with these guys. Now, I get it. First game, they had like 70 new faces. 70. That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of turnover.
And that's what they talked about early on about, as an excuse. But the media has pretty much squashed that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'm not giving Belichick excuses for that because obviously he brought him in. He evaluated a transfer portal, whatever. And he has stated that he would much rather recruit high school guys and then fill in the chinks with transfer portal rather than rely heavily on the transfer portal. But I mean, you take that first drive away where I thought, oh wow, this looks good.
Right. They
absolutely fell apart. And TCU didn't crumble. TCU did not, this moment's pretty big. We're in North Carolina. They 100% flipped the script and it was game over. And, watching Lopez throw the football, aside from that first drive, I mean, Belichick's never been good with quarterbacks outside of Tom Brady. Well, I would argue that anybody could be good with Tom Brady, but Lopez did not look very good. And I don't know. I said North Carolina has an easy schedule, but that schedule could prove to be a little harder if their performances continue to look like they did against TCU. For sure.
I'll let KJ comment on it, and then I'm going to bring up something that is on a little bit bigger scale, but wanted to get your guys' reaction.
I mean, definitely watching it. I was expecting at some point to see the Tar Heels start to, scratch and claw their way back or what have you, make adjustments, whatever it needed to be to get back in the game. And at a certain point, it's just like, I can't remember if it was post halftime or at halftime. I basically changed the channel. I was like, I hate to say it, I feel like this game is over. It was embarrassing that I was able to quit viewing a sporting event that early and know that with 99% surety that it was over.
How many people shut that off, KJ? I did.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I mean,
out of halftime,
viewership drop.
Out of halftime, you're thinking, okay, adjustments. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got all the nerves out and everything. What's TCU do? They get the opening kickoff. 2 plays later, touchdown.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's got to be something else on. I mean, I'm not watching this.
So as we talk about Bill Belichick as a coach, and there's a lot of people out there that refer to Bill Belichick as the GOAT when it comes to coaches. I guess I'll bring up the point, before, when Bill Belichick was in his first days of coaching, when he started out with Cleveland, he was with the Jets. And of course, we all know how Parcells tried to stick him with the head coaching job and he didn't take it. He ended up going to Cleveland. His record wasn't too good with Cleveland. He ends up getting together with Tom Brady in New England. And we all know how that went with 6 Super Bowls and his success. But his success was short-lived after Tom Brady left. And New England's record was not near as impressive after Tom Brady went on his way. So does this say something about possibly the need to rethink the quality of Bill Belichick's coaching career when this is going to be a program that he basically was giving a handout of 20 plus million to go buy players off the transfer portal. And I'd venture to say North Carolina is really second guessing whether they got the bang for their buck so far on what they've paid. What kind of time do you think he's going to be given at North Carolina before there's a plan B? I mean, I know it's one game. We can't. I mean, I know I'm way the horse's carts before the horse. But is this kind of a put in question, his overall ability as a coach?
Well, I think it's very similar to Arch Manning. It's too early to tell. It's too early to say yes, no, maybe, whatever. But the thing that alarmed me the most is coaching-wise, scheme-wise, and all those things our coaches are responsible for. TCU just boat raced them. I mean, defensively, UNC had no answer for TCU. And let's face it, TCU's a good team in the Big 12, but I don't think anybody has TCU in their top 3 or 4, maybe knocking at the door. So, the college game is different. The college game is different. It's an adjustment for him, and it's gonna take a little bit for him to figure it out. I do think nepotism has held him back. I don't think he has the best coaching staff that Bill Belichick could put together, but it's the coaching staff he has put together. So, he's going to have to make adjustments, and they're going to have to be better. And their schedule is favorable enough to do that. I mean, would you agree, KJ? It's favorable enough to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at it in depth, but I mean, they weren't. I don't think they had the most difficult run by any means.
Let's put it this way: their schedule gives them a chance to recover, but if you go into it with that frame of mind and they lose another one,
right?
Then what? I mean,
this is UNC's schedule. Okay, we got the loss to TCU, obviously. Next weekend they play Charlotte. Or this weekend they play Charlotte. Then they play the Spiders of Richmond. Then they play another Big 12 foe in UCF. Then the big one October 4th with Clemson. Then California. Then Virginia.
Yep.
Syracuse. Stanford lost to Hawaii. Wake Forest. Duke. and NC State to close out the season. Now, you tell me. Everybody wants to bag on the Big 12, but give me outside of Clemson, give me the other football powerhouse that UNC is playing there. There isn't one. I mean, there just isn't one. I mean, when I look at their schedule, they should only lose one more game to Clemson. And outside of that, they should be sitting at 10-2. On paper, that's exactly what I said before they play. I said TCU is going to be a tough team. I get it. You know, they're saying it's Belichick. It's that. I'm like, don't sleep on TCU, and TCU boat raced them.
I didn't follow the Wolves after they upset Notre Dame last year, but was that like a complete fluke game?
100%.
Week one? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. But
I guess that'll be the only other one I can.
But I'm just saying, as Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, California, Virginia, Syracuse, Stanford, Wake Forest, Duke, NC State. Where's the football powerhouse at?
The level.
Where's even the really good football team there?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, realistically, UNC could be looking at if they can get it right with Charlotte and Richmond. You know, I still think 10-2 is on the table, even though they looked woefully undermanned against TCU, which again, middle to top in the Big 12.
Yep.
You know, UNC realistically in the ACC, 4th. You know, I don't see Florida State on there. I don't see Miami on there. Clemson, yes. So I mean, it's still on the table for UNC, but you know, I guess I wasn't expecting them to beat TCU, as I think I was. Or who else picked TCU? Did you have TCU, KJ?
Let's see.
I had them.
Yeah, KJ had TCU and you did.
Yeah, and you had UNC and Chad had UNC. I mean, I believe TCU was going to win that game. It's just the way they won the game that made me like kind of, whoa, wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a TCU win. I wasn't expecting a TCU stomping.
Okay, before we get into the pick'em segment, I want to do one more quick one. Eric, I'm going to let you be the only one that responds to this.
Okay.
And if it's possible at all, keep it to just a couple minutes.
Okay. Ooh, I didn't see this one.
This week I heard whispers of Heisman Trophy starting to surface for Iowa State quarterback Rocco Beck. How serious of a contender can he be?
Rocco Beck is a good quarterback, but the answer to that question is 0, and I'll tell you why. Because of where he plays. If Rocco Beck was the quarterback of Alabama, to me it would be a no-brainer. I mean, Rocco Beck has the trust of Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell will send a couple different plays in, and Rocco Beck decides which one to run. And to this point, it's been successful. You know, the punter just as well had a case of beer on the sidelines this weekend because he never punted once. You know, I think Rocco Beck was 19 of 20 for 247 or 67 yards in a half, basically. The kid is a good quarterback. If he entered the transfer portal today, he's going to a big school. No question. Alabama, I don't care what anybody says. Alabama would take Rocco Beck in a heartbeat.
Is he a junior?
Yes, he's got one more year. Yes.
So do you think he'll come back for his senior year? I would think
100%.
Yeah, with the amount of quarterbacks that'll be in the draft this next year, he's probably going to
and not only that, I mean, he's, you know, Rocco Beck is just like a Brock Purdy type. You know, he'll get drafted, you know, but he's one of those guys that he works his tail off. You know, yeah, okay, John David, but I'm telling you right now, Rocco Beck, Notre Dame would take him in a heartbeat. I know you like to bag on the Cyclones, but he's a hell of a quarterback and he's a great kid. But it's just where he plays. Think about it. Troy Davis was runner-up in the Heisman. 2 back-to-back 2,000-yard rushing seasons. It's just plain fact of the matter. So
when he went to the NFL, he was a bust, though.
Well, that may be. He's undersized, I thought, for the NFL, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
I think when it comes to Rocco, I'm glad he's our.
What is Rocco's height?
He's about 5. He's about the same as Brock Purdy. I mean, his measurements are the same as Brock Purdy, for the most part. So, what Matt Campbell was able to do with Brock Purdy and to get Brock Purdy where he's at, I think Rocco has that same type of ability. But again, if he was playing for, Ohio State or Michigan or somebody like that, it would be a totally different conversation. Do I think it's awesome that he's even in the conversation? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. But it's just not going to happen.
So let's go to our pick'em segment so we can get on to the NFL. So let me get the first game up. This first game really shocked me because Illinois is a team to be reckoned with this year. I think they're going to be right in there when it comes to playoff talk. They are traveling to Duke, and Duke is by no means a powerhouse.
No.
But they've got Illinois as only a 2.5-point favorite. Saturday, 11 o'clock a.m. game on ESPN. I mean, I'm going to start right off. I'll give Chad's pick, and as we go along too, Chad sent me his picks. Chad took Illinois. I took Illinois as well. Does either one of you see any way Duke gives Illinois any type of game this week?
No. I'll take Illinois in the points. No question.
What about
do you think, KJ?
No, yeah, I don't think there's much to go off that would speak to the contrary.
Unless I'm missing something, I just don't see where this is even a close game.
Yeah, I don't. That's when you see something like that. The last thing I'm going to do is put any money on it in Vegas because for some reason there's some in their mind saying that this game's going to be close. But let's go on to the next game. We've got Baylor going to SMU, number 17 SMU. SMU is a 3-point favorite Saturday at 11 a.m. KJ, let's start with you.
Oh, man. I'm trying to evaluate in my head how much credence I guess I would give SMU based on their week 1 performance. I mean, based on the win level, it might be a fairly close game, but yeah, I probably would stick with SMU.
Eric?
SMU. I'm not a big faith. I don't have much faith in Baylor right now.
Both Chad and myself has taken SMU as well, so that's a clean sweep. So first two are clean sweeps for Illinois and SMU. The next game on the docket. Iowa 1-0 at number 16 Iowa State, who's 2-0. Iowa State is a 3.5-point favorite. Another early game on Saturday. You want to go first, Eric, or you want me to go?
I'll go. I've gone back and forth because if you look at this game and you look at the history of this game, I'm shocked that John David would take Iowa. But you look at this game, I don't think the home team has won in the last 5 meetings, which is odd. actually, I think it might even be 7 meetings. I know Iowa State has beat Iowa the last 3 times at Kinnick. And I think Iowa's beat Iowa State the last 4 times at Jack Trice. On paper, this looks like, Iowa State should win, and the 3.5 would be a little light. But I'm going to completely jinx myself. I'm going to take Iowa State because I feel like this is the year they should win it, and it shouldn't be 3.5.
KJ?
I would say the same. I don't know South Dakota versus Albany if I had to compare the two side by side in terms of week 1 comparisons, but Iowa State won a bigger margin. They've actually played a competitive in-conference opponent on a legit remote matchup.
Right.
Well, one of those 2 teams had a great in their name. So.
Oh, yeah. The Great Danes. But I will tell you, USD is, I think, ranked 4th in the FCS behind North Dakota State. South
I was going to say,
Dakota.
if I'm going to consider any team formidable, I would think it'd be the Auburn of the Dakotas in North Dakota, in South Dakota. So, in that sense, I would say that plus your scoring margin being greater, Hawkeyes all day, man. I'll roll with Beck.
Well, I know Eric's going to disagree with me, but again, Iowa's going to not show anything. They almost didn't show anything for the first half. For the first half, they didn't show anything. But if you look at Iowa State's first 2 games, they didn't have much of a pass rush. And I look at the Iowa quarterback, Mark Gronowski. He is, what is he, 6? Is he 6'4", 235 or something like that? He's a big boy. And it wouldn't surprise me if he gets 15 to 20 carries in this game. Because I think Iowa's got to show that they can throw the ball early on. And, in that game against the Great Danes, Iowa's had a freshman running back because their starting running back was hurt. Their top wide receiver didn't play. And so I don't know that you can necessarily determine how good of an offense Iowa had just by watching that one game. So Chad and I both feel that Iowa is going to win this game. So we both got Iowa. And believe me, for Chad to pick Iowa in this game speaks volumes, because if anybody knows Chad at all over the last couple of years, if I heard Coward Yellow one more time, I'd throw up. And for him to take Iowa over Iowa State, I thought was very interesting. But Eric is right. It seems like it doesn't matter how good one team is over the other. This game is always decided by a field goal or less.
I watched a ranked Iowa team come into Jack Trice once with quarterback Drew Tate. And Iowa State was, just Iowa State. And when they left, it was a 33-3 drubbing of Iowa. And on paper, you would have said that Iowa was going to kill them. I have also watched Iowa go 11-1 in a season, and their only loss being to Iowa State, who I think finished up 7-5, 6-6. I mean, it's a rivalry game. You throw it out the window.
To answer your height question, Ed, he's 6'2", Gronowski.
He's 6'2"?
6'2", yep. He's also only thrown
he's like 235, isn't he?
Yeah, I didn't look at his weight.
But he was pretty banged up by the end of that Great Dane game. I mean, they decided that running him was the thing to do, and he was pretty banged up by the end of the game, I think. So makes me wonder if they're going to, you run him 15 to 20 times as a quarterback, I think he's going to be pretty beat up. I don't know that that's necessarily the thing to do. But if you look at the Ireland game between Iowa State and K-State, all they talked about during that game was that the teams coming back from that game just had an atrocious record of being able to win because it was just short turnaround, coming that far, whatever. I think Kansas State definitely showed the effects of it this last week.
Yeah, for sure.
When they played North Dakota, it took overtime for them to get the win. Iowa State didn't seem to skip a beat, but does this end up being the week?
We can't be 3 or 4 weeks. We can't be 3 or 4 weeks into the season. You keep saying, the Ireland drag. That's over with, man. It's over with.
I agree.
Well,
yes, you can't really dispute that anymore.
The Iowa Hawkeyes are a little different than the Yotes. I'll just say that.
And the Cyclones are different than the Great Danes. Okay.
So let's
game.
move on to the next game.
Oh, God. Sorry. I was trying to click for you.
Number 15, Michigan, 1-0, traveling to Boomer Soonerland. Number 18, Oklahoma, who's also 1-0. Oklahoma is a 4.5-point favorite. It's a primetime Saturday night game on ABC, which I will definitely be tuning in for that one. I will let you know Chad took Oklahoma. So who wants to go next?
I've got Oklahoma, and I think this is one of those games where if it was flip-flopped and it was at Michigan, I think I might take Michigan. It scares me that I'm taking Oklahoma because, Venables is on the hot seat, but Oklahoma did look good in their week 1 game. They looked very sound where they haven't in the last couple of years, or at least since joining the SEC. So I'm taking the home field advantage. I'm going with Oklahoma.
KJ?
Yeah, I would jump on that bandwagon train as well. I think not trying to discount the Lobos by any means, but once again, going back to just margin of victory and such, Oklahoma's week 1 win speaks more to me than Michigan's.
I actually had, at the beginning of the week, in my head, this is Michigan all the way. And then I got to thinking about the Ohio State game and what happened to Arch Manning. And it made me wonder, Michigan's got a freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood, who had a good game this last week, but it wasn't a great game. It was a good game. In Oklahoma, for the first time that I can remember, Oklahoma has actually got a pretty decent defense this year. And so it makes me wonder, under the lights, Michigan traveling to Oklahoma for a big Saturday night game, if a true freshman is going to be able to handle that game. And I actually switched my pick. I think that it's really going to put a big time pressure on Michigan's defense, because I think Michigan's defense is going to have to keep it a low scoring game, because I don't think they can rely on Bryce Underwood to a tit for tat high scoring game. I think they're going to have to try and grind out a low scoring game, but I just think Oklahoma's quarterback has got too much compared to Michigan, and I think he's ultimately going to win out. So I took Oklahoma, so that's a clean sweep for Oklahoma. So the last game for the college segment, number 12, Arizona State, 1-0, 6.5-point favorites, traveling to Mississippi State. Who's also want to know, Mississippi State was what, 2-10 last year?
Yes.
But they've beefed up their team as well, especially on defense. Both Chad and myself, we took Arizona State. You know, Michigan State last year when they played against Arizona State, Arizona State actually led that game 30-3 going into the fourth quarter. And it was just I don't know whether Arizona State took their foot off the pedal and put in their second, third string or what, but Mississippi State was able to get that game back to 30-24 for a final. But I think Arizona State is going to be able to pull this one out. So what do you guys think?
I'm Arizona State.
What
about you, KJ?
Oh man, I was watching.
He wants to.
Earlier this week, they were showing the Sun Devils doing practice drills, and they had like the staff members, ringing the bells during the entire past practice drill. I will say I've been to one, I guess probably a handful of SEC games, Mississippi State being one of the stadiums I've attended. And my ears were ringing for 30 minutes after that game. It is a different world. That being said, I can't jump too early to vote against Arizona State, knowing what they've experienced last year. While they have obviously had some player turnover, I think their QB is still pretty dang proficient. And I'm going to ride with ASU on this one, I think.
So I hate to say it, but for the four of us, we got clean sweeps on all four. No, we don't.
No,
the Iowa State game is different.
Iowa State's the only different game.
4 clean sweeps, and we got 2-2 on the Iowa State game.
Now on the comment line, Big Mike took Mississippi State, took Michigan against us, took Iowa on the 50-50, took Baylor, and has Illinois. So Mike would either be a mover and a shaker, or he would be completely out of it after this.
We'll have to definitely comment on. We'll have to definitely comment on Mike's results next week. See how he stacks up.
Yeah, he took Illinois, Baylor, Iowa, Michigan, Mississippi State. All right. Well, we'll make Mike the guest picker since he picked on every single game. We'll see how he stacks up next week. So
we are going to take a quick break to hear from Wild Sun, and I did partake in Wild Sun this last weekend.
What a great place.
It is. It was a beautiful day, and I don't think there was one thing on the menu I didn't try, but that was definitely my cheat day. So I've had to make up for it this week, that's for sure. But let's take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be time to turn the page and put on our NFL hats. We will be right back.
On to the NFL.
We have a lot to do. We have the AFC divisions to cover. We've got some hot topics we want to hit. We got some predictions.
Well, then I'm guessing we just will get into it. So let's start with this one.
And
we got pick'ems too.
I don't know if KJ is going to join us for the NFL segment, but if not, he needs to make sure he gets his NFL pick'ems to us, because we're not going to pull an Eric of last year where he waited till
blah, 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 blah. Anyway.
So what do you want to start with, Eric?
I got the AFC North predictions, and I think this one is pretty simple. Tell me what you think. I think it goes Baltimore. I think it goes Cincinnati, followed by the Steelers, bringing the trail end up to the Browns. And I think Baltimore and potentially Cincinnati are your two playoff teams out of that division.
We pretty much nailed that almost to a T. I got Baltimore winning the division. I got Cincinnati coming in second. I've got Baltimore, the division winner. I've got Cincinnati as a wild card. And again, I went with records, of course.
Right.
So I've got Baltimore at 12-5 winning the division. And I've got Cincinnati at 10-7. And I think the only reason why they go 10-7 is because their defense. If it was up to their offense with any kind of a defense at all, I think Cincinnati would be a lot better. But
with any kind of defense at all, I would say Cincinnati vies for the top spot in the division.
Yeah.
But the defense will let them down, no question.
I have Pittsburgh, actually. They're only finishing one game behind Cincinnati. But
9 wins, huh?
Yeah, I had them in 9 wins. I had them between 8-9 and 9-8. And I went with 9-8, but I had only Baltimore and Cincinnati coming out of that division. So let's go over to the AFC East.
All right.
Which is, can Buffalo have an easier division?
Well, I think New England is going to be better.
Yeah.
And, Miami is always a good weather team to watch out for. Of course, when it gets bad, they're not that great. But, to me, the AFC East, it looks like it shakes out pretty easy. It looks like the Bills, followed by the Patriots, followed by the Dolphins, followed by the Jets. So,
holy cow, we're 2 for 2 so
far.
And
honestly, if Drake May can, improve in his sophomore season, you might even see New England vie for a wild card spot. I'm not ready to call it yet, but I do think that, potentially that the New England could be in for a wild card spot.
I had Buffalo at 12-5, and I got Baltimore at 12-5. So that means that the game coming up this Sunday night could possibly determine home field advantage. Who gets the home field advantage in the playoffs?
Right, for sure.
So Baltimore has kind of been notorious, as is Cincinnati, to be a slow starter. And so I think Baltimore is going all out this year to right that ship. So I don't know. I think that there's a little bit more urgency in Baltimore for that game, but we'll talk about that when we get to our pick'em segment.
Right.
So let's go to the AFC West.
So I see the AFC West a lot more competitive. This one was a little tougher. I've got 3 teams in this division, and honestly, I think all 3 teams could win it. I realistically believe the Chargers could win it. I realistically believe Denver can win it. and obviously Kansas City is Kansas City. But I am going to go with the old adage that we always talk about, and I honestly could see 3 teams come out of this division in the playoffs. Well, I'm just saying.
No, I'm just laughing because we're 3 for 3 now. I mean, I pretty much the carbon copy. I've got Denver and Kansas City tying for the top spot, but I had Kansas City getting the tiebreaker and winning the division.
Right.
But then I had the Chargers only being 1 game behind.
Yeah.
So, but I got all 3. Kansas City winning the division, the Chargers and the Broncos getting a wild card. And to me, it's always about changing the narrative. And every year that I can remember, Las Vegas Raiders have always been that team that was going to jump up and surprise people and take the division and all this stuff. And every year they end up with 6 or 7 wins. And I see that same thing this year. I see him at 7-10.
Yeah. I think Pete Carroll is kind of like that year John Gruden, made them relevant and then obviously had his issues. I think Pete Carroll has the opportunity to make the Raiders dangerous. I just don't see the Raiders in this division competing with the top 3 teams. So, and I guess it goes back to the old adage, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And this is Kansas City's division until it's not. Now, do I think Kansas City is as prime as ever to not win the division? Certainly. Denver's defense, you could make a huge argument that Denver could have the best defense in the league. And so they're going to have to play them twice. I love Harbaugh and his running game and everything that he does in LA. I mean, I just think this, I would say this, and we talked about last week, the NFC North, or the NFC North being the 2 divisions that, man, if you had $1 million, who do you absolutely put it on to win the division?
Well,
it's tough. We just went through it. AFC North, AFC East. Oh, it's Baltimore, it's Buffalo, and everybody else. This division is not that way.
And I think that the first 6 games of the season are going to go a long way in determining where Kansas City, whether they're able to take the division or whether there's going to be someone new, because I think Rashid Rice being suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season hurts them, because if you had Rashid Rice and Xavier Worthy stretching the field, that puts a whole different look on Travis Kelce
100%.
as far as rolling in the middle.
100%.
And I think that you're going to see a lot of Kansas City from last year, the first 6 games. And that's where the damage has to be done, because if Kansas City gets through those first 6 games and they're in a good position, I think they could run away with the division at that point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when they're at 100%. I still think, if Denver's going to come up and knock them off, if LA is going to come up and knock them off, this is the year to do it. And I think Kansas City is primed for that. I mean, I don't know. You hear all the talk in training camp. Yeah. Oh, we're ready. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited about this year. This could be the best Kansas City team we've had. And maybe they're right. But, man, watch out for Denver. I'm telling you, that defense is legit.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see, being a believer in the sophomore slump.
Yes.
I'm interested to see if Bo Nix is able to be as effective this year as he was last year.
Any of the quarterbacks. Does Bo Nix take a step back or forward? Does Jaden Daniels take a step back or forward? Does Drake May take a step back or forward? I mean, it's a legitimate thing.
I had a chance in my fantasy draft. I had Jaden Daniels or Joe Burrow staring me in the face of who I was going to take for my quarterback, and I took Daniels, and I don't feel good about that now, because I have a feeling Cincinnati's going to be in all those 30-some to 30-some and 40-some to 40-some games because their defense blows that Burrow's going to have so much better stats. But, I wanted a chance to see what it was like to have Daniels as my quarterback, so I took it. So
yeah, I don't think either one of them is a bad deal, but, Burrow's going to be in those situations where in fantasy football, I think he's going to be in a lot of more situations to score points in fantasy football, but we will see.
So the last division we have is the AFC South. And to me, this is like a division. I've got Houston winning the division, but I only have them winning the division with a 10-7 record, so it's nothing to really write home about. But I've got Indianapolis second, I got Tennessee third, and I've got Jacksonville finishing last.
See, this is probably the only division.
This might be the only division we don't agree on.
Yeah, and the reason I don't agree on it with you is I don't see Indianapolis in that second spot. For Jacksonville has improved, and I feel like the Prince, he's got to start proving something. I think this is his 5th year, if I'm not mistaken. And, Trevor Lawrence has not been, he's had flashes, but he's not been like the guy. And I think that this year among all, Trevor Lawrence has to step up and be Trevor Lawrence that they think he is, not what he has shown. Obviously, I think we both can agree Houston Texans are going to win this division. But I actually see Indianapolis at the end. And I'll tell you why. The quarterback position. Who's the quarterback?
That's always been their Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Ever since they lost Andrew Luck, they've never recovered.
Yep. You got the Anthony Richardson deal. What is it, Mac Jones? Like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That, to me, when you have that big a question mark, then, I know it's a weak division. So I actually had Houston, followed by Jacksonville, followed by Tennessee, followed by Indianapolis. So, but I don't think the bottom 3 teams are playoff teams because, one, you got the AFC West where I think 3 are coming out of. You got the AFC North where I think 2 of them come out of, potentially 2 of them come out of there. The East with Buffalo and maybe the Patriots. I just think there's too many 1, 2, and even 3 teams in the other divisions to even. Jacksonville may be better. I just don't see them getting in the playoffs. I just don't see it.
So consensus has division winners from both of us is Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Houston.
Yep.
And I think we both agree on the fact that the wild cards are going to be the Chargers, Broncos, and Bengals.
Yep. I can live with that. And depending on what happens with Cincinnati's defense, could be New England. Could be, but I think those are the contenders and the rest are kind of the pretenders.
And I am going to write down my records and again at the end of the year.
You're going to go through them, aren't you?
See how I did. Let's get into some hot topics.
Baltimore travels to Buffalo for week 1. Coming away with a week 1 win is important for.
More important for.
You want to go or you want me to go?
Well, I already know the answer to this, so you go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say that it is more important for Baltimore for a couple of reasons. One, I think Baltimore is going to be more challenged in their division than Buffalo is. That's one. Second thing is, Baltimore is notorious for not starting off very well. And I think that a good start certainly catapults their season a little bit better. So I think that this question definitely leans toward Baltimore. It's more of an important win for Baltimore. Now, I'm not saying I'm picking Baltimore because I know we have that, I'm sure. But I think it's more important for Baltimore.
You touched on the fact that Baltimore's in to me, a much tougher division. So wins are going to come harder for Baltimore than they are for Buffalo. Baltimore's been notorious for starting slow. And I think just like Cincinnati, not as bad as Cincinnati. Cincinnati started slow as well. But I think Baltimore, if they want any chance of having home field advantage at the end of the year and not having to travel to Buffalo or not having to travel to Kansas City, that, I've never understood when I listen to commentators and when I listen to the sports talk and they talk about, oh, this is only a week 3 game or this is only a week 4 game. And they almost diminish the importance of, to me, every win is important.
100%.
And so to me, the ramifications of Baltimore and Buffalo only meeting once during the year and one automatically getting a heads up on the other at playoff time is huge.
Yep.
Is absolutely huge. So I say by far, this game is more important to Baltimore than it is for Buffalo.
Yeah, no question. We're definitely in agreement there. No question at all.
So what's the next one?
Looks like the Micah Parsons hype train is in full throttle, steam ahead. Media has practically crowned Green Bay Super Bowl champions before the season has even started. And this makes me want to puke. For a couple of reasons. I'm going to keep it short, but the first reason is I am not a big fan of Jordan Love. Are you, Ed? I mean, take your I hate Green Bay away. Like, are you a huge fan? He
is far too careless with the ball. He throws too many interceptions.
Yeah, but because he has followed Favre and Aaron Rodgers is just like, oh, he's the next guy. He's great. I don't see it. I do not see Jordan Love as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But now, what do we have to hear? Brett Favre won a Super Bowl when he was 27. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl when he was 27. Well,
Green Bay won a Super Bowl when they got Reggie White.
Yeah, and they got the defensive piece for Favre, and they got the defensive piece for Aaron Rodgers. Now they got the defensive piece for Jordan Love, and he's 27. Can't stand it. I cannot stand it.
If you look at last year, they were like, the Packers only lost 6 games for
5 in division.
But they lost 2 games to Minnesota, who was a playoff team, 2 games to Detroit, was a playoff team, and 2 games to Philadelphia, who was in the playoffs and whatnot. But yet they could go through strings where they would lose 2 or 3 games in a row, and then the playoffs would come and they would say, who's the most dangerous team in the league?
Green Bay.
And it's like, where is this coming from? There is more Green Bay sentiment out there in the media that it just drives me up the wall. Micah Parsons could have been traded to the Browns. He could have been traded to Chicago. He could have been traded to Buffalo, Baltimore. I don't
name
care. And they're not going to get the same hype that Green Bay gets. It's just sickening to listen, And so, Jerry Jones tried to save face by saying, we traded Micah Parsons away because he couldn't stop the run. Well, I got news for you. If that's legit, the NFC North can run the football.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to see, how Green Bay's defense goes, because Green Bay traded one of their bigger run stoppers to Dallas. So I guess we'll see. But to me, to crown Green Bay already is they're in the top 4 for Super Bowl contenders right now.
You're telling me, this is what I don't understand. And I don't get the slobbing over any team, let alone Green Bay. They were 1-5 in the division last year. 1-5. And with the addition of one person out of 11, all of a sudden, they're a Super Bowl team. I don't get it.
And it doesn't, and when you go 1-5 in the division, looks to me like you got a lot of work to do just to get out of your division, let alone talk about Super Bowl.
Yeah. If you're telling me Micah Parsons was the only piece that they were missing last year, then to supplant the Detroit Lions at the top, I guess I'm missing something.
Well, Jordan Love hasn't proven that he can stay healthy, number one.
Right.
And he's also turns the ball over way too much. So I guess we'll find out this year. But I think, Eric, you and I are in agreement the fact that until the playoffs get here, it's going to be sickening.
Yes. They could start 0-2 and they're still going to call them the most dangerous team in the NFL. Makes me want to throw up. Anyway, this is an interesting question for the both of us as we sit on opposite sides on this Monday night. If Minnesota goes into Chicago Monday night and beats them with basically a rookie QB, is it panic time for Caleb Williams? I thought about this question, and I think it's kind of twofold. I think if J.J. McCarthy comes in as a rookie, with no Addison, and with the Bears being at home, and they win, I think it's there's going to be a little more to that than just Caleb Williams. It's difficult to understand, how the whole transition to Ben Johnson has gone. I mean, I almost feel like we're back to square one with Caleb, with a lot of the things that Ben Johnson said during press conferences. Just from a learning standpoint, just from an understanding standpoint that Caleb Williams wasn't getting last year, because clearly it's different from college to NFL. If we lose the game on Monday, I'm going to be pushing the panic button in a lot of other areas. But I mean, it's time for Caleb. I guess I look at it this way: if we lose Monday, but Caleb looks good, I'm fine. It just means we got some things we got to tweak, we got to whatever. But if Caleb looks bad, I'm not going to be very happy. Let's just put it that way.
You know that Flores, with the Vikings defensive coordinator, is going to be throwing all kind of looks at Caleb Williams to try and rattle him. Ben Johnson knows the division teams really well. So you got to believe that Ben Johnson knows enough about Caleb Williams that he's putting together a game plan
100%
that he feels is going to be successful. So if Minnesota is able to go into Chicago on Monday night and beat them, and Caleb looks bad, I think it's almost time to get that panic button, because you can't put him in any better position to start the season.
Oh, no question. At home, Minnesota's missing Addison. McCarthy's a rookie quarterback. But here's the deal. Just like, we say backup quarterbacks, for example. You know how you and I have always talked. Backup quarterbacks come in, they always have a great week, and then it doesn't take very long, and all of a sudden they're back to backup quarterbacks. Chicago doesn't have a whole lot on J.J. McCarthy. So, I mean, Minnesota does have an advantage from that standpoint. So there is going to be pressure on McCarthy to play well, but it's also at the standpoint of we don't have a whole lot to go off of. We don't know tendencies because he was hurt all last year. What is there, 3 series of preseason total that he has in a year?
And I agree with the fact that in those 3 preseason games, he got to do 2 drives. I think he only had 2 drives in that second preseason game that he played. That was it. And you and I have talked about that earlier. The fact that if anybody needed time to gel and get comfortable, it was him. Yes. And he didn't play. So O'Connell must feel confident enough that he's got a game plan in place that's going to be successful. So I guess we'll see.
I mean, if I was a Minnesota fan, I would be nervous about that. Simply because, I've said this on the show ad nauseum. You don't know what you have. The scheme in college that he ran was a very run-dominated scheme. Like, you've got to get him the feel for it. Even the speed of the game, for example. And you can say things like, well, they practice against other teams. Yeah, okay. But listen, there's not 65,000 fans in the seats. There's not the pageantry of an NFL game around you when you're sitting in practice. And if you make a mistake in practice, it's not as glaring as if you make a mistake on Monday Night Football. I mean, I think this is going to be a tough environment for both of them. Because Caleb Williams, to your point, knows that he's got to start putting some stuff out there. But at the same side of the coin, this is putting J.J. McCarthy in a real tough spot too. Monday Night Football against the Bears in Chicago. I mean, the lights are bright. Haven't had any time in an actual game on the field.
I could have thought of 1,000 different games that I would have rather had on opening weekend.
Right.
But if you look at it, Minnesota and Chicago, Minnesota's won 5 consecutive games in Chicago.
Yeah.
And they've also won 7 of the last 8 against Chicago. So, again, Chicago has to change the narrative.
100%. No question about it.
With that, let's go ahead and get into our picks so we can wrap this up. KJ did send me his picks, so I can tell you what they took as we go.
Okay.
First game, Kansas City is in Brazil against the Chargers. Kansas City is a 3.5-point favorite. LA Chargers are technically the home team, which, I always get a kick out of these teams that I always wonder with the season ticket holders, what happens with teams that one of the home games gets taken out of the country, if they adjust the ticket price or the season ticket price for that or not. But
probably not.
Minnesota for the first time this year is doing back-to-back overseas. They're actually staying out there and playing another game the following week. So I think they were 1-1. One's a home game, one's an away game.
Right.
So anyway, Kansas City at LA Chargers in Brazil. I will tell you that KJ took the Chargers. Chad took Kansas City. I think Kansas City is going to be ramped up on this for this game because I think they're going to want to get a quick start. I think they got a sour taste in their mouth from the Super Bowl. And like I was saying earlier, I think that they know it's important these first 6 games to rack up as many wins as they can with Rice being gone. So I've got Kansas City coming away with the win here. What about you?
If this was in LA, I think I would be apt to take the Chargers. But since this is a neutral field in Brazil, I went with Kansas City for that reason. I think if it was in LA, I would lean more toward the Chargers. But since it's in Brazil, I went with Kansas City.
Okay, for the next game, we've got Tampa Bay as a 2.5-point favorite going into Atlanta for a Sunday noon game. KJ took Tampa Bay. Chad took Atlanta. What'd you do?
I'm taking Tampa Bay. Give me Baker. Give me the Bake Show.
I took Tampa Bay as well. I think Tampa Bay is one of the sleeper teams that I think, for whatever reason, being in that division that they're in, sometimes I think they're just kind of not left out of the conversation compared to these other divisions. And Tampa Bay has always been tough. And I think Baker's settling in. And I think that Tampa Bay's defense is going to be able to handle Michael Penix. So I took Tampa Bay.
And then bright lights for Michael Penix, his first start. So,
yeah. So the next game we've got San Francisco's 2.5-point favorites. They're going into Seattle, where Seattle is a very hard place to play. I know for some reason they've scheduled Minnesota to go to Seattle like every year except for one in the last 10 years. So for whatever reason, Seattle. So I even flew out for one of the games. Seattle's very tough at home. But I think that with San Francisco, with Purdy being healthy, with McCaffrey being healthy, it might be one of the only games McCaffrey is healthy. But I think with San Francisco going into Seattle with pretty much the full slate, I don't know whether Ayuk is going to be playing or not. I don't know if he is or not. But
he's not. He won't be there till fifth week at the earliest, and week 7 I heard at the latest.
Yeah, so I can tell you that I took San Francisco, and Chad and KJ also took San Francisco. So will Eric be the odd man out on this one?
My man, Brock Purdy, baby. Give me San Francisco. My boy.
That's a clean sweep for San Francisco. That's the first clean sweep of the 3 games we've done so far. Next, we have Detroit, who's basically got, with the exception of Dan Campbell, basically has a whole new coaching staff going into the crowned Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packers, where the Packers are 2.5-point favorites. It's the late game on Sunday afternoon. We've got Chad taking Green Bay. We got KJ taking Detroit. What do you got, Eric?
I got Detroit, man. To be the man, you got to beat the man, and I couldn't select Green Bay if they were playing Cleveland, I don't think.
Well, you must have caught me on a weak moment because I actually took Green Bay because I figured Green Bay at home, season opener. If there was ever a time that Green Bay is going to be hyped up to win, especially against Detroit.
Detroit's defense is healthy now.
Well, but Detroit also, I was listening to Sports Talk today, and I think the first time they played against Green Bay, they went for it on 4th down 4 times and got 2 touchdowns out of it. And then the last game they played against Green Bay, they went for it on 4th down 7 times and got 6 of them. And again, there was a couple touchdowns there. So I think luck was on his side I think he lives and dies by the fourth down. And I think maybe his luck ran out this last year. So I actually am going on record taking Green Bay. So make note of that because it ain't going to happen very often.
May God have mercy on your soul.
God, I guess. The Houston Texans traveling to the LA Rams, where Rams are 3.5-point favorites. Another late game on Sunday. The Matthew Stafford, the great unknown, is under center starting the game. Chad took the Rams, and KJ went with his hometown favorite, Houston Texans. I think the Rams are going to really challenge San Francisco for the division.
I think so too. Outside of San Francisco has an easier schedule.
Oh yeah, San Francisco definitely has an easier schedule.
I think if schedule for schedule was the same, I think the Rams would be a far bigger challenge than they are, just simply because San Francisco, if they stay healthy, they have a schedule to win 11, 12 games.
I remember Houston came into Minnesota last year, and Houston was highly touted, and Minnesota completely boat raced them. So I know that Houston's a good team. I just don't know that they stack up against the good teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
So I took the Rams. How about you?
I've got the Rams as well.
Okay, then the game we've already talked quite a bit about. We got Baltimore on Sunday Night Football going into Buffalo. Where did you see the last time they did the preseason game for Buffalo? They showed the new stadium that's basically being built right next door.
Yeah.
They actually, if there was ever a team to scream dome,
Yes, it would be Buffalo.
It was Buffalo, because if you remember some of those games in November, December,
woof,
where the snow is just unbelievable.
People are volunteering to come in and scoop.
The only improvement this stadium has over the one they're in now is the fact that they got a roof, at least over the seating. The only part of the roof that's open is the field, which kind of reminds you of Dallas's old stadium.
Yes.
But still, but in a way, I respect Buffalo for keeping it outdoor, because I can argue that Minnesota has never been the same team since they went to a dome. Once they started playing inside from the old Met Stadium, they lost their advantage of having the Rams from California, Dallas from down south. They lost the home field advantage from the cold weather in the playoff time. So I can understand why Buffalo did what they did, but I don't know if I was of course, if you think about the tailgating in Buffalo, if it's going to be 0 with snow coming down like a banshee, and you're going to have 15 layers of clothes on with a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and you're going to tailgate for 3 hours before the game, what are you going to do if you got to walk into a dome? Everybody's going to be sitting in their seat with 3 layers of clothes on their lap.
Yep. That's exactly right. You just won't be in it all day.
So I can see where there's a little conundrum there. So anyway, Chad and KJ both took Buffalo to win. I went with Baltimore. I just think that Baltimore. I think Baltimore knows the magnitude of this game, and even though it's a big game for Buffalo, I just think Baltimore has more to lose if they don't win. So I took Baltimore.
I look at it like this. My pick is basically going by this game is in Buffalo. if this game was in Baltimore, I'd go with Baltimore. But this game is in Buffalo. I'm going with Buffalo on the home field advantage. That's how thinly sliced I think these two teams are.
So that brings us to the last game, which, looking at my backdrop and looking at Eric's backdrop, are we going to stay with our teams or are we jumping ship to the other side?
Let's just get Chad and KJ out of the way first.
Chad and KJ both took Chicago, which I think is the easy way out.
The easy way out? Explain yourself on that.
I'll just explain it by saying I think that, again, until Chicago changes the narrative, Minnesota's had their number, winning 7 of the last 8. And say what you want about J.J. McCarthy, in some respects, you can say the same thing about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was not very well thought of. Didn't have much confidence of any of the Vegas or the you name it. And Sam Darnold was able to go into Chicago and beat Chicago. So I guess I look at it as in I don't know why the Vikings can't do the same with J.J. McCarthy. So I guess I just have more confidence in J.J. McCarthy than you guys. You guys have made it well known that you're not big J.J. McCarthy fans, but I'm going to take – I think that Minnesota's defense is going to be able to keep Caleb on his heels. I think Caleb is going to make some mistakes. I think there's 3 or 4 big plays in this game that are going to determine the outcome. And I think that Ben Johnson is putting the faith in Caleb, that Caleb is going to do the right thing in these 3 or 4 big plays. And so far, Caleb has been more apt for the big turnover than he has to pull games out. So until that narrative is changed, I'm going with Minnesota.
I already had you written in as Minnesota. I've gone back and forth. I'm like, I could reverse gank this. I could take Minnesota. But you know what? This is a new year, baby. This is a different Chicago team. Screw what it's been the last 3, 4, 5 years. This is a different Chicago team. Give me the Bears. I'm not reverse ganking it. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, the defense. It's our Monday night. Let's go. Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm out on a limb, and I had not even my daughter come to my defense. I figured she'd come in here on the comment line and she'd be touting the Vikings.
No,
but
she knows. She
said
knows.
She said nothing. So
She knows. She knows. He doesn't want to
so
get on the show.
everybody's seen my way too early power rankings for the NFL, so I'm not even going to put those up. But after the week 1 games, I'll be back into updating my power rankings, and we'll start spending some time on that. But just wanted to let everybody know, if you like our show, please go to our page and like and give us a follow. We sure appreciate all the pages that allow us to post our show, and that number is continuing to grow, so we really appreciate that. But it's a big weekend of football, and it starts tomorrow night.
It's going to be a good one.
So
Both seasons are going to be rolling along now. It is football now from Thursday till Monday, from here till January, baby.
so
From
it's
here
time.
till January.
So this is the time of year where it gets expensive for us football fans because a lot of us open up our pocketbook to give money to the significant others to go shopping and
Get out of here.
give us a reason to be able to sit in front of the tube all weekend. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. Special shout out prayers to Chad. Hope Chad's with us again next week. Sure thinking about you. Until then, peace out to everybody. We will see you next week, 8 o'clock Central, Wednesday night.
And that's the bottom line.